Norway, a place which is famous for its peace and tranquility all over the world. But the day of 22nd July 2011 became the most dreadful day in the history of this country. A man who took the lives of 77 people for his ideology and shook the whole world. This is the story of Anders Behring Breivik, a mastermind whose plan was not only deadly, but also shockingly systematic. A story that exposes the reality of hatred, extremism, and inhumanity. Oslo, Norway, 22nd July 2011. It was morning time. There was an atmosphere of peace everywhere, as if everything was going on as usual. It was summer, and people were unhappy in their work. Some were shopping, some were rushing towards the office, and some were starting their routine in coffee shops. There was a calm and peaceful scene everywhere, just like this city had always been. The rule of Norway, which was famous throughout the world for its peaceful and disciplined environment, seemed equally peaceful at this time. But no one would have thought that this morning was going to turn into a dreadful evening. There is a white van parked in the middle of the city, close to a government building. This one morning seemed like a van which did not attract anyone's attention during the day. People did not show any special respect to us. After all, what special thing could a white van do? But if someone peeks inside our van, then maybe he will run away. Because inside this van was hidden a deadly device, the bomb that shook Norway's heart. People were passing by the van. No one felt anything strange. There was silence on the vehicle, as if everything was completely normal. But the way the van was moving was not normal. This was a carefully designed explosive which was placed there to destroy the life. Every part of the bomb was made according to plan, and every wire was part of a deadly mission. This was not a mistake or an instant attack. It was the result of the planning of a clever mind. The sun was getting hotter and hotter, and time was flying by. Everyone was busy in his work, but this routine did not stop for him. Because at 1:25 p.m. they crashed, and the peaceful atmosphere of Oslo turned into a nightmare, an explosion that will never be forgotten for the people of Norway. But at that time, no one knew anything. In a few hours, the face of this peaceful city of Norway was changed forever. A plan was made. A mission was about to begin. The city was still like this, but death had spread its cover. It was 1:25 p.m. when a massive explosion was heard in the government quarter of Oslo. The van that was parked in the parking lot fell victim to a massive bomb. The blast was so powerful that other citizens fled on every side. A chain of death and destruction had begun, and many buildings had also collapsed as a result of the blast. When the explosion occurred, people did not understand who did it and why. The impact of the bomb was so deep that even the night was dark. Everywhere there was shore, logs were running, and chaotic scenes were everywhere. This bomb blast shook Oslo. Soon, emergency services began responding. There was a sequence of ambulances, fire trucks, and police vans. But in such a situation, she saved her life first and then got help. Rescue operations had become very difficult because the collapse of buildings and the impact of bombs gradually reaching the entire area was making it even more challenging. Tried to help people, but this whole scene was no less than a nightmare. Injured people were seen lying in the vehicle because they were lying with such fear that it was not possible to take them to the hospital. Everyone's face was filled with shock and surprise, and their mind was just wondering why this explosion was done. This was an unprecedented attack for Norway, which no one had even thought of. That was the blast and the chaos that followed. People are still trying to understand who is responsible for this environment and what could be the motive for their action. This was the time when the entire country had to question itself that how could such an enemy enter into its fold and carry out such a big attack on such a large scale. But this is just the beginning. Just 2 hours later, another shocking news shook everyone. On Utøya Island, a stone's throw from Oslo, a youth camp of the Norway Labour Party was running. This camp was a peaceful event where more than 600 youth participated. Political discussions were going on in the camp, and recreational activities were going on. People were enjoying their lives, and no one had any idea that the sheet of death had been laid for them. Suddenly, a man in police uniform came to the island. He said that he has come to provide security, and people mistook him for a normal security personnel. This man's name was Anders Behring Breivik. He had a briefcase and a gun, but no one suspected him because he was wearing a police uniform. After a while, everything became cloudy. Breivik showed his true form. He took out his gun and started firing. The sound of gunfire was heard. There was noise in the camp. People were running, and there was chaos everywhere. Breivik systematically targeted people one after another. Every human being who came in his way was shot dead. The scene was full of pain and horror. People were jumping into the water to save their lives or running to other parts of the island. There was a loud noise of firing, screams, and pain of people. Society was not sure how this great tragedy should be faced. This shooting continued for almost an hour. Breivik didn't shoot anyone. He shot anyone who came in front of him. During the camp in spring, there was destruction everywhere. This was a well-planned attack in which Breivik had brought his mind to full use. The lives of more than 600 young people were ruined in an instant. This attack left a scary and unforgettable memory for them. This terrible time had covered Norway with another heavy sheet of hatred and had cast another dark shadow for them. When the police got the news of shooting on Utøya Island, they were in shock. On one side, the investigation of the bomb blast in Oslo was going on, and on the other side, this new deadly attack was in front of them. This time was very challenging for the police because on one side they were facing a massive bomb blast, and on the other side, deadly shooting was going on the island. For Norway, both of these incidents became part of a larger tragedy. In this situation, everyone was wondering who did all this and why. Police succeeded in reaching Utøya Island at 6:25 p.m. After reaching the island, they saw that Breivik was present in the vehicle. The strange thing is that Breivik surrendered without any resistance. Looking at us, it seemed that he was very vicious and dangerous, but still we allowed ourselves to be arrested easily. All this was very difficult because before that, his planning and execution was so precise. Breivik's behavior was completely normal. He surrendered himself without any remorse or regret. There was no shame and no regret on his face. He was absolutely calm and emotionless, as if nothing had happened. There was no pain or regret in his eyes, just his confident expression. The police were left with yet another mystery to the society. How could a man who was so ruthless in his shooting be so calm and controlled in his arrest? Close-up shots showed Breivik's face. There was just a moment of calm in his eyes. There was no worry on his face, as if he had finished his work and now he was ready to hand himself over to the police. It was a strange and disturbing sight which will remain in people's minds for a long time. Breivik turned himself into the police and did not express any remorse or guilty feelings. This was a terrifying picture of his personality, a man who was in no way ashamed of what he had done and who did not care about his actions. Scene 5. The interrogation. Breivik, why did you do all this? This was the question of the police officer in the interrogation room, but Breivik's answer was even more chilling. It was just a mission. It was a necessity. I did all this to save my country. Breivik revealed his full plan of actions. He explained that his real goal was to shake up Norway's political system. He said that through his actions he wanted to save his country from the danger that he believed was coming from multiculturalism and immigration. Breivik explained his planning in detail. He made explosives for 3 months in a remote farmhouse. Using fertilizer and chemicals, we assembled a massive bomb. This bomb blast was carried out in a brutal manner in the government quarter of Oslo. This was a carefully planned operation in which Breivik tried to achieve the goals of his manifesto. He said he was part of a cultural war, and his mission was to stop multiculturalism and immigration. Breivik justified his actions by saying that he was fighting for his country based on his ideas. While telling all this, there was no regret on his face, just a calm and emotionless expression. He considered his work a necessity, not a crime. Breivik's trial became an international sensation. In the courtroom, everyone's eyes were on us. He tried to justify his actions, tried his best to portray his crime as a mission. He said that he is a hero who is fighting for his country. For him, all this was a necessity, which he did to save his country. During the trial, Breivik explained his entire planning and manifesto and presented his actions as a necessary step against cultural war and immigration. This was his own perspective, which the court listened to carefully, but his reasoning was deeply disturbing, and there was no way to justify his actions. The court gave Breivik a maximum imprisonment of 21 years according to Norwegian law, which was Norway's strictest punishment. This sentence was adequate for his crime, but there was a condition. If in the future it was proved that he was still dangerous, his sentence could be extended indefinitely. This meant that Breivik could have remained in prison for the rest of his life. During the trial, everything is concerned with the decision of the doctor. This decision is aimed not only at Norway, but also across the world for the treatment of doctors in the aftermath of this case. Breivik had his own perception, but the court never justified his actions. 77 people were killed in this attack, many of them teenagers. This was such a tragedy that shook not only Norway, but the entire world. A part of the lives of people was taken away who were thrown out of their homes along with their future and dreams and were allowed to join a peaceful camp. The people of Norway are in mourning after the disaster, but they have not given up their values. They gave a collective and peaceful response to their grief with their unity and peace. People thought in their minds that this attack was a test for them, how to defend their humanity and their ideals. This was a time when the entire nation saw you eating with one another and controlling your emotions, expressing your values. Norway showed the world humanity and the power to survive even in difficult times. This case started a deep debate at the global level. Remedies for extremism, hatred, and punishment systems. This question is still alive. Can one man's thought society be so dangerous for humanity? Breivik's actions posed this question to the world. Could a man's mind set be so dangerous that he could justify such killings to spread his ideology? Along with this, the question also arises that how can such individuals be stopped, and how can their ideologies be neutralized so that such tragedies do not happen again? This debate is still going on, and finding its answer is a big challenge for the world. This case started a deep debate at the global level. Remedies for extremism, hatred, and punishment systems. This question is still alive. Can one man's thought society be so dangerous for humanity? Breivik's actions posed this question to the world. Could a man's mindset be so dangerous that he could justify such killings to spread his ideology? Along with this, the question also arises that how can such individuals be stopped, and how can their ideologies be neutralized so that such tragedies do not happen again. This debate is still going on, and finding its answer is a big challenge for the world.